Okay, so this course represents my life's work so far in thinking about how, hey, it's Kai, all right, just in time. Kai, welcome.
Hi,
We're gonna,
Sean.
good to see you. We're gonna get a chance to
You too.
introduce each other, but we're gonna, basically how these sessions work, there's gonna be some kind of an introduction and some kind of a writing. Here we go. Now it's all coming together. Okay, so we have um, five olds and three news, i.e., five people that are retaking the class and three people that are newly added to the class. Our new um, people, we have Tasha, who on the screen says Jody. Do you want to say hi,
Yeah.
Tasha?
Hi, I'm Tasha.
Where are you?
Like in my house?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
a good. You're very, very, very sharp. You're anticipating where we're going.
Yes, I'm in my bed. I have construction.
I mean geographically, like in
Oh,
the
okay.
world.
I'm like, there's a lot of building going on, so it's probably loud. I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Awesome. And Paul, hi Paul. Where are you, Paul?
I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Welcome, Paul. My name's Sean. I'm in Fort Collins. And Jeannie.
I'm also in Fort Collins, Colorado, and this is my third time through the Wisdom Workshop.
I should say this is my 7th time through the Wisdom Workshop, and it's amazing how it's different every time. Candace.
Hi, everybody. I'm Candace. I am also in Fort Collins, Colorado, and this is my 2nd time through the Wisdom Workshop, so exciting.
And Leslie, looking very professional.
Yes.
Oh, but I can't unmute after, after working like this for almost 2 years. Leslie Taylor, I am in Fort Collins as well.
This is your 2nd time through.
2nd time. Well, I'm going to say it's my
You're continuing.
almost 2nd. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I wasn't fully engaged at the beginning of the first one. So this will be my wholehearted one.
Good luck
And
with that.
at a new age,
Whoa.
1 year older.
True. I am older.
Well,
than I
we're
was the
always,
first
I
time.
mean, we're always older, right? I mean,
Right.
All the time. Yeah.
And Kai, where are you calling in from?
I'm in Munich in Germany, and it's 8 p.m. here, but I'm happy to be with you.
Awesome, welcome. And we have Samantha, who's not on the call, from London, and Kyle, who's not on the call, from Fort Collins. Okay, or do you want to say something, Jeannie?
That Kyle is literally sitting in my house though, so he might
Working.
pop up. Yeah, he's working, so he might pop up over my shoulder at some point.
Okay, so here's the deal. This course is really about self-awareness and self-actualization. So knowing where we are and then figuring out how we can use where we are to become the best version of ourselves. It's rooted in philosophy and psychology, but it's so funny, Tasha, when I ask you where you are and you're like, what do you mean? That's exactly the move, and you're kind of anticipating our first writing experience. So there's 2 things I want to do before we start, just to introduce this free writing. For our new people, how familiar are we with free writing practice? Writing to Tasha, never done it? Kai, do you have a free writing journaling practice? All right, and
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean, I think you know about me.
Yes. Okay. So here's the deal. The goal is not to write well. The goal is not to write something that you're going to share with other people. In fact, you kind of want to embrace just writing whatever comes up. So you're not trying to do this well. You're just trying to get whatever comes up down onto the page. You're trying to give yourself room to just play on the page, kind of. And one of the main blocks to that is trying to do it right. So don't worry about doing it right. The general rules are: don't erase, don't cross out, don't reread what you've written. You're just trying to stay present in whatever's coming up. I'm going to give us some prompts every class period, and there's a bunch of writing prompts in the course. But if your mind goes somewhere else, like you start thinking about your puppy or something, I don't know. Just don't just go with it. So this is like a stream of consciousness free writing exercise. And we have this is kind of a little bit of a bigger one today, but just to kind of our main goals today, we want to build a sense of community, which has a sense of like where people are. And that is, again, Tasha, it's so good. The big question, really one of the biggest questions in philosophy is, who are you? So if I ask you kind of like, who are you? You might also think about what roles do you play? We're trying to get at a little bit of what it is that we're doing. But then the next question is, where are you? So this is physically in bed is fantastic. But this might also be emotionally or mentally. It might also be if you're in some kind of a transition. You might think in that sense is, where are you going? And we might not know where that is. And you're going to see like, so this is a menu of questions. Obviously, you don't need to answer all of them. And then the last question is that you can really start with if you want is, what is the good life for you? So we're really just asking as a way to kind of warm up and be in communication with ourselves. Who am I? What am I doing here? Where am I? Kind of what's going on? And then what is, if I had to say what the good life is for me, what would that look like? That make sense? We're going to go for about 14 minutes, maybe 15 minutes till about 12:26, 26 after. Cool? Okay, so we're trying to not judge what we write. We're trying to just keep on writing. Keep the pen or pencil moving if we can, or keyboard if you're on your computer writing. And we'll be back in 15 minutes. Okay, it's about time. I'm gonna do my best to take notes, and there will be like a Zoom document on just where we're coming from, and then definitely feel free to use the chat for any references. So I'll send out an email with references from the chat and the other notes that I'm taking that may or may not be helpful. Usually, either tonight or the day after the meeting. But I'm curious, how was that for people, especially for Tasha? I'm curious about, since it's a new relative experience. How was that for you? Oh, I maybe muted you, or
There.
got it.
Is that better?
Yep.
Yep. It was easier than I thought it was going to be. About midway, I started to think about what I was writing, and then I'm like, no, you're just supposed to write. So I got back on track, and so that felt good.
Awesome.
Not that I can read any of it.
Yeah.
My handwriting is it.
I was a little manic on this one. I was like trying to get down a lot for some reason. So my handwriting is also, I can kind of see in my pages when I'm like kind of patient and writing slowly versus when I'm trying to get down a lot. I was pretty manic, that one. I really like the distinction about thinking about what I was writing versus writing. I think that's going to play into a lot of it. Brian, the guy I play music with, and I have a saying that if you're thinking, you're stinking. So that's really interesting. Cool. Other reactions on how that was? And I'm curious about Paul as well. I know this is a newer, you had some funny things, not funny, I'm sorry. You had some things to say about free writing last time.
Yeah, I mean, my free writing has largely been in order to develop lyrics for songs. And so I think I was joking about how every conversation, I'm surprised I wasn't writing down everything you said, starting to move it into phrases. But this kind of writing, I do tend to write, like I love to be asked to write for something, for work or whatever, and then I'll sit down and kind of free write. But free writing like this, I think I have a resistance to, because I think I may have said this, because I'm kind of having an innate anxiety about what I might find when I look inside. I think I've always been wired that way, even though I'm a shrink. It's probably why I am one. And right. It's just seen the people I was in grad school with, if you think I'm bad. So at any rate, yeah, it was great actually. And I was surprised by this time how I was kind of manic too. It was like, oh, I actually have more to say about this.
Is Paul cutting out or is it just me?
It's
Oh.
for me too.
Okay.
But I wrote about patience in my definition of the good life. So
That's the biggest takeaway, I think. I'm cutting out. Let me move. Am I back?
Kind of. You were there. You were. We got most of that. It was just the last 2/3 of what you were saying, or the last third, basically, of what you were saying.
Am I back now? I think
Yes.
I'll move after this because I think it's about my location. I think I just said that I tend to. What the biggest takeaway is that I was clearer about answering these questions that I thought I would be, and I think I have a long. And what I wrote about was my long history of struggling with identity and with knowing who I am, but it was clearer today than it used to be. So that was good.
Amazing. Any other comments on the process before we go to the actual content?
Paul, I find that interesting that you said sometimes struggling with identity and being more clear. I don't know if I was more clear with identity, but I was more accepting of the struggle, like, which is maybe kind of the same thing. I'm not sure, but that statement you made really resonated. I hadn't thought about it that way.
You guys, not until today have I ever realized that every time I write, it's manic writing. Like every time I write in these, it's like I have to stop because my hand hurts. Like, I don't know how to not write in a manic pace. It's because I have a lot in my brain that you're trying to get out at that fast. And I don't know if that's right or wrong. It just is.
Okay, yeah, good. So the whole goal of this exercise, just framing this, and before we move on to content, is non-reactive awareness. So I did my master's thesis in Buddhism and mindfulness, and one of the things you're doing when you practice mindfulness is I said non-reactive. It's probably better to say non-judgmental awareness. So you're just not saying good or bad, just, you're right, it just is. So that's awesome. There's you might experiment, Jeannie, with slowing down and seeing if that changes, just as an experiment, like maybe altering the pace that you're writing. But sometimes I don't know. I think that's probably awesome that you have a lot to say, but there I go. I'm judging it as good or bad. I was just trying to say, should have just let you stay there. Awesome.
I was gonna say maybe that has to do with the time, Jeannie. Like if it's a timed writing exercise, maybe you're feeling pressure for time.
But I also, I think it's that I feel pressure to not miss the thought that's happening to the paper.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's definitely true for me.
Yeah. And there's been interesting research on like handwriting versus typing. Like I can type actually faster than I can handwrite, but handwriting supposedly more therapeutic with the connection that the physical sensation of this one point to the brain. I want to look up that research again, but I also, Leslie, thought your point about clarity versus acceptance is really, really interesting. Whether or not I'm more clear about where I am versus just more accepting of where I am. So that's definitely worth keeping alive, that question. Any other thing about the process?
Did you want us to answer all of those questions?
I'm not sure. I want all those questions to be live as we move forward. Those are really the biggest questions of the course. So
okay, so that's a general structure going forward that wasn't all intended for this moment.
Correct. And sometimes you might write for 15 minutes on just the first one, or skip the first one altogether and just write about the good life.
Sure.
So I did a little bit of both. Did you get to all the questions, or did you just focus?
Hell no.
Because you have so much things. What did you write? Let's go content.
I got through the first two basically, and that was just because I allowed the second question to come in, but that was also a choice I made. So
I'd like to use the prompt as a way to introduce ourselves to each other, really, and where we are. So I know I said we're not going to share anything from the writing to other people, so you don't need to. But I am curious about the where we are, or just a little bit more about who we are. And you don't need to share from your writing, but I do want to. One of the big goals for today is see if we can generate a little more community around our ideas of the good life or where we are. So if we want to share, what we did is a timed writing exercise is a really powerful tool to set aside a chunk of time and just write for that duration. It does something to the brain to really just get it out. But the second real question is kind of who are we and what is the good life for us? These are really the two biggest philosophical questions in the history of philosophy, at least as I see them. And speaking of who we are, look who's gracing the webcam, looking super snazzy.
Yeah, look at that.
Our
I was
facilitator
feeling
in
all
residence.
professional. I was
I know.
feeling all professional and put together, and then Kyle rolls in. I'm just gonna like back over to my garbage can.
Way to show
Jeez.
up, Leslie over there, Kyle.
Jeez, Kyle.
I'm just gonna
It's
make a
our-
name tag.
It's our annual forum, Leslie. We're learning about the Office of Engagement and Extension and our new vision and our new direction.
Bold and courageous vision and direction.
Yeah, actually, it is. This is a safe space, so I can say this. But the larger extension and engagement division is up at arms because it's actually very courageous and it's very transformative. I love it. It makes me really sad. I feel like I've resigned too early. I've resigned prematurely, but no, it's all good. It's fun, and Blake Naughton is awesome. He's super. We're very lucky to have him at CSU.
Would you mind starting us off, Kyle? But we're just about to do introductions, just a little bit about who you are and what you care about, or what's good for you.
Yeah, so I will start off by saying this. I'm still in the Impact Collaborative skill building experience, and I'm coaching a team from Alabama A&M, and it's a team of individuals who are putting together mobile units that can be deployed during natural disasters to help people deal with whatever it is they need to deal with in the moment, primarily gathering their documentation, getting all their documentation uploaded in electronic form so that they can file insurance claims, just all of that sort of stuff. It's really, really cool that they're thinking from a partnership and a collaborative perspective in terms of partnering with municipalities and towns and cities and counties to help fund these different initiatives so that each extension office in the state of Alabama is ready and equipped to be able to provide that support. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm listening to the team as they might need my help. They're working on their 3-minute elevator pitch right now. But that provides a very good summary of what it is that I do and who it is that I am. I am someone who is empowered over time, I have been empowered to empower others and help them realize their leadership potential and help them develop community projects that ultimately raise the bar for all of us. I'm very focused on leadership development, civic engagement, and helping people realize their voice, realize their potential, and to make some progress on the challenges that we know we have in our communities. Help folks make progress on those unique challenges and really move forward solutions. So that's me, yay.
I'll say that's a giant yay. You're incredible, Kyle.
Maybe, but not always.
That's
We like you.
I'm gonna go on this. I'm gonna lead off on this one. I am a teacher. I wrote down that I'm a teacher and a child at heart. Those are my main identities, and I love play. What was interesting and why I feel like I wanted to speak up here is that you said that leadership development, having people realize their voices and use their voices. I really feel like empowered to empower others. I feel like that's what I love about teaching so much, and why I created this space is there's not enough room in a traditional classroom to be like, okay, everybody, we're going to harness our full potential. And the response is, wait, what's due on Friday? I'm like, no, it's not as important as harnessing our full potential. And I just feel like I am honored that you're choosing to spend time with us, Kyle, because of what you do for the community, but also that synchronous mission message of helping people get the most of their potential out in the world in interesting ways. So I'm really interested in how this is going to interface in this group as we move forward. So thanks for leading us off.
Yep, thank you. I'm with you all. I really am, but I have to bounce back and check in on my group. And Sean, sorry we haven't been able to connect, but I got some really great updates and perhaps a new focus. Well, not a new, but additional focus on empathy as a really, really important concept that we need to focus on more, because it's important in that conversation about appropriately and effectively using our voices.
Respectfully, lovingly, peacefully,
Yep.
curiously, appreciatively. I said that I'm an appreciator. That was the other thing that was interesting in mine. I'm like, oh, appreciation has a cool double meaning, right? Like you put funds in the bank and it appreciates. And I think that's what good teachers do, is they appreciate people, or they appreciate in people what they might not be in a good position to appreciate. And they're like, oh, I guess I can appreciate that. I'm like, yes, you can. Way to go, Kyle. Amazing. Anybody else want to sympathize or go that connects with that?
I did the "Where are we going?" prompt. That's consumed my whole time, and it's because I'm very much in a execution. What are you gonna do next?
Cool.
Headspace.
Cool.
And of course, some of the things come up for me that are about making sure that I stay grounded in who I am. So, some of that is what makes a good life, making sure you're not working too much, making sure you don't, I think I said this last week, I don't pendulum swing into the fervor that is often my energy of like, I'm going to do all this stuff and I have all these ideas, and to make sure that I find that balance. But my entire writing was about like all the things I want to do, which is never really a problem. But I will say, Paul, all week long, and I told Sean this in a phone call, like I'm obsessed with this idea of your lyrics podcast. And I like have been thinking about it a ton. And so I don't even know where that's going to go or what it is really, but I haven't felt so excited about even just contemplating that it's been in my brain all week. So.
Very, very cool. So really quick, what's the first song you thought of when you were thinking about it?
I haven't thought about it, because what I've been doing is this weird thing where every day I'm writing down, like literally every morning I wake up with a song in my head. So right now, the month of November, I've been writing down every morning what song is in my brain that morning, that literally just comes right, like as I have slept, I wake up and there's a song in there. So I haven't, I'm unhealthily obsessed with John Mayer, so I'm sure there are bazillion songs that could be part of your gig, but anyway, it's just, for whatever reason, it was an inspiring, I don't know, I'm curious just to learn more and hear more about what that is and what that looks like. And then, how that gets executed on.
That's awesome. It really is. Much to appreciate about that.
Yeah.
I can talk about where I'm at, I guess.
Thank you, Candace.
Yeah. So my writing kind of went towards the two questions: where are you and where are you going? Those seemed to kind of pair together to me pretty easily. And it was really interesting just kind of thinking about if I'm going toward the good life, am I thinking of it as a destination instead of a journey? And then if I just switch the perspective, instead of thinking like, I don't know, it was almost like, am I on a path putting one foot in front of the other, like in a positive way, and appreciating the surroundings while I'm there? Or am I running from the life I don't want? That was an interesting thing that came up. And I was like, oh, am I running away from something, or am I going towards something? And so it was really interesting. And the biggest thing that came up was like, can I change my perspective in order to see it as differently? Like, oh, I'm just strolling along instead of I'm running from some monster. And then, the biggest things that came up were perspective, presence, and patience. And so I guess, just kind of shifting from seeking something or running from something to kind of, can I appreciate the good life now before it passes me by? That was just really interesting. So that's kind of where I went with it. I'm kind of in a transition mode with jobs and with some focus on career stuff. So I don't know, I'm trying to embrace the path instead of the finished product of where I imagine myself. where's the end? I know that sounds weird. Like, am I chasing death or am I chasing the good life? I don't know. I might be missing it. Where is it? So anyway, that's what came up for me.
I love that because it's so close to what I wrote. And this idea of striving for something. In Austin Kleon's Show Your Work, there's this quote that he says that the fun about art is the striving, the working towards something. And actually when you release, so like you work really hard on releasing an album and then the album comes out and it's kind of like anticlimactic because you're not working on that thing anymore. And there's the fun is almost in the working on the thing. And as soon as you get to the destination, it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do next? So it really is like, if I'm striving to get to a certain point, that's going to set up this attachment that I'm going to judge my progress against, which is probably unhealthy. It also might limit my ability to like notice, oh my gosh, there's this awesome opportunity right here. It's not what I expected, and it's doing this different thing. So yeah, I wrote striving without attachment this morning when I was thinking about this. It's especially like, you know, if you're building a business or looking about doing something new, I do think there's this interesting mode of desire that propels us forward, like the power of full engagement is the other entire book by Jim Lair, where he's really the research on how the energy and engagement we bring to a task is like crucial for our performance and productivity. And so if we're focused on the outcome, that actually takes us away from being as productive as we possibly could. And I think that's true in life as well. Like if I'm focused on trying to get to this place, I'm like not actually living as well in where I am.
That came up too in The Artist's Way. I think it was chapter 8 I was just reading. And I was like, oh yeah, how did Picasso ever realize that painting was done? Like, when are you just say it's done? I don't know. Like, it's such a weird thing to think about. Like, and if artists always waited till something was done, then there would be no art in the world because it's never really done. I don't know. I just thought that was really kind of a mind like, whoa, hold on. I never thought about it that way. So if we're all just striving to make products and a product of art, is that even worth it? I don't know. If you don't appreciate the process, then what are we really getting out of it? I guess.
Also reminds me of I'm not sure if this is an apocryphal story of Picasso. Someone was like, "Oh my God, you're Picasso," and he's like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Would you do a drawing for me? Would you do a self-portrait?" And he's like, "Sure." There you go. And the person's like, "Oh, it's amazing. How much is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it'll be $3,000." And the person's like, $3,000? That just took you like less than a minute to do. And Picasso says, no, you misunderstand. I've been working on this portrait for 30 years of my life. It's like, ha 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 ha. Anyway, that's the goal, is to draw portraits for 30 seconds and charge $2,000.
And there comes perspective again, right? Like, get the judge. What's the perspective? Just because it took me that little doesn't mean, I don't know.
No, and that is really cool. Okay, thank you, Candace. So rich. So rich.
I can share.
Thanks.
I feel like I'm kind of in the kindergarten mode of this. And so my things are not like yours. And I'm
exactly where you are is perfect, Tash.
Yeah, comparison is the thief of joy, according to stoned Elon Musk on Joe Rogan.
Sorry, I need to pass. I'm feeling emotional. So.
No, that's great. That's okay. You don't need to apologize. That happens a lot. So
okay, good.
Good.
Great.
Kai, Leslie, or these are my awesome facilitation skills. I just call on everyone at once and then let confusion ensue.
Okay. I'm actually feeling a little better. I can go.
Okay. Even
all right.
better.
So feel like I was a little bit of just a list person. Like I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. And then I kind of went, I don't know. And I think that's okay because I've never really thought about that. But then what I noticed is that I kept being content. I kept saying floating and I'm content. And I am. I don't know. I just didn't have a lot of deep things, but I don't know. It was still nice to feel like I'm good with where I'm at, but I'm also like, I feel like I'm in this class to get beyond that, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of happy. So anyways, that was it.
If I might, two ideas here. I think this is a really cool question moving forward, because and back up, the first one is, I think it's great where you're at. And I don't think like if it's not deep or deep, like deep versus not deep. I
Yeah.
feel like being a mother, a sister, and a daughter was maybe the deepest thing that anybody has said yet. From where I'm sitting. So it's interesting, like, and that hit me the most, where it's like, oh shit, right. That's what's happening here. And I can see why that's emotional. Then being content is also incredibly radical in our culture, honestly. And I'm getting emotional thinking about that, because it's like, what am I doing with this course? No, just joking. That's a terrible joke. But also, and that's the best way to frame. I think this is an open question. Like maybe you don't need anything. And maybe being content is really like great. And it's just more of a deepening appreciation of that. Or maybe there is a way to move beyond the contentment into ecstatic bliss. I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like that's an interesting question to move forward, but I also just wanted to assure you that on a Clubhouse call this morning, just this idea that everyone, I really do believe that everyone has this inherent native wisdom that only you have. And Candace, I appreciate your share in the chat a lot. It's not just that everyone's at different stages, but we're all different people bringing different things to this. And so like your honest bid to just be really honest does a lot for the entire group. So I want to appreciate that.
I just wanted to second that. I thought your share was beautiful, and as a husband and father, I know there's so many. It really is countercultural. Like when I left graduate school to try to pursue music, all the people in LA who were doing other jobs so they could do something else, right? And I was married, and I was one of the few people, and my wife was still in Nashville, and she came later, but it was like it wasn't valued. What was valued was making it, and that's just one small microcosm. So, and I feel like you've inspired me. That part of what I wrote was that I wanted to be more at peace with what I have and am already, which is, and I have this, and I also wrote inconsolable longing is one of my characteristics. And
it's great
I
for
wouldn't,
songwriting.
Yeah, that's actually C.S. Lewis. Oh yeah. Right, it sure is. And but the tortured artist effect is only so useful.
Yes.
And not healthy. So anyway, I just really respect you and appreciate what you shared.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for saying that. Yes, community is building. Natalie Goldberg has a great thing about tortured artists and writing down the bones. Super great. So I can't wait to get to that. To be more at peace with what I have and am already, quote unquote. It's fantastic, Paul. Saw Leslie nodding when you said that as well. You're
I think
muted.
you're on mute.
You're on mute. Pause.
Great idea. Great. This is where I go. It's a great idea, great aspiration. You know, that's fantastic, but I don't, how do I get it? You know, it's like, and so I'm frustrated and I start moving into beating myself up about not being there, and I'm not, and everything I'm doing is not going there, and yada, yada, yada. And so part of, I guess, was anybody else in the middle of going, sharing their stuff?
No,
yet?
I was
Okay.
calling on Leslie, but I'm not. Yes, you. No.
Okay. All right. So I'll just, since I started talking. So, yeah, I mean, I have this quote in my head, so I just wrote it down halfway through from C.S. Lewis. We know not what we long for. We were made for another world. Inconsolable longing with eternity in my mind. And that's, I mean, that is like, I remember from being a young boy, that pretty much is me. So for me, and I tend to think of songs and stuff when I'm writing. So I immediately heard Pete Townshend's of the Who, Pete Townshend's song, "I'm a Seeker, and I'll be seeking till the day I die," kind of thing. And that well, I never really loved the song itself, but musically, that really speaks to me. And so where I'm going, the two questions you wanted us to cover right now were which ones, Sean?
Any. Who are we and where are you going? It's wherever
Right.
you took it, honestly.
Okay. All right. So, you know, I wrote a bunch of stuff, but I'm somebody who wants to be freer to give and love than I grew up being equipped to do, and always seeking meaning. And you know, Man in Search of Meaning is sort of like, remember when I first saw that title in high school, I thought, oh yeah, let's figure it out, you know. And I'm still in search, right? And so so another sort of characteristic of me is a song I wrote in graduate school called "Wishing I Was Someone Else," which was sort of like capturing who I'd been up to that point. And it was a comedy song, sort of a parody of insecurity, but nonetheless, that really was sort of drove me. So so now I find myself at this age in a place where I'm not sure where I'm going. I just left my job being a therapist in a high school for private high school for 20 something years, and doing therapy otherwise, while continuing to write songs and do stuff like that, play out as a musician. So I think I'm in search of increasingly more meaningful ways to connect with people. And and where I'm going, what came clear was I think I wrote something like, I want to transmute my time and skill set as a therapist into connecting with people in various ways through music and art. And it isn't either or, but I love connecting with people around music, theirs or mine, or the music they love. And so it's just something I've always loved to do. Yeah, and increasing freedom from the way that, which we talk about a lot in Clubhouse, the way that my own trauma growing up limited me from pursuing what I want to pursue with freedom and without in spite of the fear. One of my favorite books, the only decent self-help book written in the 70s, is a joke of a friend of mine and I, or maybe it was the 80s, was this book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that pretty much sums up current thinking in psychotherapy about how to manage difficult emotions and thoughts. And it's about change. It's about just do it, kind of, and then the emotions and thoughts will follow. So that's what I aspire to. And I don't know where that's going exactly. And that part, because of the wisdom workshop, talking on the app, and this, I feel a little more comfortable with right now than I did 3 months ago. I think that's it.
One, there's two things. Actually, Jim Detmer on Tim Ferriss, great interview. He's a professional seeker. It's one of my favorite interviews I've heard, and how he thinks about that is just awesome. So I sympathize with that. The other one that I think is really interesting is to be freer and to give more love, these goals of being more at peace with what I have and what I am already. And then, that's a great goal. And then you said to enter in your like mind, you start like judging where you are, comparing where you could be, you start thinking about whether or not I'm doing the right thing. All these like mental things end up like, I thought I was trying to be peaceful with where I am. I think these are small. So the other thing that's coming up is tiny habits, and the idea of just habituating mindfulness and equanimity, honestly.
Yeah.
So there are equanimity practices that when things come up, you don't judge them as good or bad. You just basically, it's like, that's what it is. It's kind of like, don't believe everything you think is the cliche. But practically just tiny, if you're trying to be at peace and all these disturbing thoughts come up and you're like, fuck those disturbing thoughts, I want to get rid of those. That's actually just muddying the water even more. And if those disturbing thoughts come up and you're like, hey, look at that, disturbing thoughts. Not like, yes, disturbing thoughts, and not like, boo, disturbing thoughts. Just like, hey, look at that. Disturbing thoughts. Those little tiny increments end up building the habit, the muscle of what you're talking about. So it's kind of unrealistic to be like, oh, in 7 weeks, I achieved peace and joy with myself. So I just like, and I'm so glad that, you have this feeling and sensation, the story of the little tiny bits of progress is legit. That's really where I think that's where the needle gets moved.
Thank you. That's great stuff.
I
Go ahead.
just had a funny analogy in my head from when you said that, Sean, and like thinking of it like as a dinner party. Like, so your head is like a party, right? There's all these thoughts and they're all there. And instead of kicking someone out of your party that you don't know, you're kind of like, who'd you come with? Like, who brought you? Huh? How'd you get in? Okay, well,
welcome, I guess.
Let's whine about it. Let's talk about it. Why are you here? What are you here to tell me? So I thought that was a fun little analogy.
Super fun. And that is like that kind of acceptance and commitment or curiosity. It's like, what else? Well, you're here. It'd be super awkward to try to get you to leave. So maybe we can I love the who'd you come with? That's great. Super great. Yes, the happiness trap. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
If we would just not try to be so happy, we would be way happier.
Yeah. And it's just about everything you just said about equanimity is sort of what guides a lot of modern psychotherapy, and the happiness trap is a user-friendly version of acceptance commitment therapy that's pretty darn good. Steve Hayes' book, he's the guy that developed it, and it's a much deeper dive. But yeah, and it's ancient practices. It's amazing.
Yep. That is like the foundation of Buddhist practice as well. It's like from a psychological standpoint, you're generating the awareness to recognize wholesome versus unwholesome mental factors, and also treating them. Equanimity is how we, so you kind of can combat if you get really angry, you just like love on that anger. You're like, oh, how great. Way to get angry, which like undoes the anger. Or if you get really like if depressed ideation is arising, you can be like, oh, that's good. Good job. Way to go, body. You're doing something right. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it's like it is like habitual, again, like character, the whole idea of character building and the metaphor of a workshop. This is like small, repeated actions, right? It's not like all of a sudden, it's just these little tiny adjustments, which is why I put tiny habits in there. That's like the best work on habit creation. When we look at mental habits, it's really big. All right, well, I'm super inspired. That's awesome. And we haven't heard from Leslie and Kai.
So I feel like I spent a lot of time hiding from that inconsolable longing part of being a tortured artist sort of person. I don't know that I'm actually an artist, but I am. There's something to that. And I think I hid from it by like just going fast and taking advantage of the things that came along and having like, yeah, and I tend to describe it as, oh, my career's been so filled with serendipity, you know, taking advantage of things, being in the right place at the right time, or recognizing where the right place, right time might be. And then I've spent a lot of time the last few months thinking about this song by Jack Johnson. I know he's not like a brilliant lyricist or anything, but there's a song Breakdown, and it's about, I need this train to break down so I can get off and take a look around and meet the people in the streets and just take some time. So I really thought about the fact that you don't have to wait for the train to break down. It would be nice if someone helped it break down. You can get off whenever the hell you want. You pull the little thing or you pull the emergency exit. And so I'm kind of in the middle of that, you know, I'm kind of intentionally breaking down in the very best way a human being could, to try and spend some time being still and figuring out more about what it is that I like to do so I can figure out what I want to do next. You know, people keep asking me, what are you going to do next? You're retiring in December. What are you going to do next? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. And it's funny how uncomfortable other people are with that. But I'm really excited and scared and grateful to be in this transition, because it is such a condition, a space, a place of privilege. Very few people get the opportunity, I think, that I had through this voluntary early retirement thing where someone was going to give me some money to leave. But yeah, I'm like, so I'm in the middle of a breakdown, but not the bad kind, like the very best possible slow down, breakdown, I think, that a human could have. I mean, someone else might have a better one, but I'm pretty happy with it. And, you know, throughout my whole life, I've always noticed that sometimes I'm an observer, sometimes I'm a participant, sometimes I'm a leader. And in all of those spaces, I'm comfortable being strong and also comfortable being fragile. And I've probably been more fragile lately than I usually am because of this whole crazy transition. I also thought about some of the folks saying things that like, you like to play. Like, I like to play, I like to be a part of the game, but I don't usually enter it with some sort of desire to crush my opponent or be hell-bent on winning. I like to be a part of the game. I'm also a generalist. I like to do a lot of things, but I haven't sought to excel at any of those things, I don't think. But I really enjoy people, connecting with them. And I think that's why I like this. I love the painful reality of the human condition, as long as we're trying to make it better. So I'm just like in this really great breakdown. And it was intentional.
Leslie, it really resonates with me about you saying it's uncomfortable for people to like, it's uncomfortable for them to think about, well, what are you going to do next? Right? Like what a lot of my writing is like, how do I untether myself from our conditioned experience, which is you need this kind of job and make this amount of money? Like, how do we unlearn that? And I've always been an entrepreneur, so I've always kind of had it, but I'm especially now like, I more than ever, I don't want to be told what to do or how to do it to make money. And it reminded me, Sean, of a time when you said, Jeannie, is there a way to consider income that is coming somewhere else so you can stop thinking about income from production of whatever it is you're doing, right? I feel like you said something about random streams of income from other things, as opposed to like sitting down to this 9-to-5 job that, I mean, again, I've never done that, but it's, I don't know, it just resonated with me, like watching people feel uncomfortable with the like, oh yeah, I'm working part-time as a 45-year-old woman and I'm cool with that, right? In general, like that's a hard thing for people to listen to.
Yeah, and Leslie,
Countercultural.
I love Leslie's metaphor of like following that curiosity in the play and saying, this stop looks kind of fun. Like, I'm curious, I'm going to stop off here. I don't know, because I'm not obligated to go anywhere, instead of someone pushing you off the train, which is how we sometimes feel about our circumstances. Like, oh, my job's over. Someone pushed me off the train. And instead of being like, well, did I really get pushed off, or did I decide to get off here? Like, I'm all good. Looks good to me. So I love that metaphor. That's so awesome.
There's two other, there's great opportunity. I'm going to put it in the chat. Whoops, maybe not. Hermine, I don't know how to say her name. She writes about working identity and just like work career identity development. And I really like this idea that you can't know, and this is the whole design your life thing too, right? You can't know until you try stuff. So it just like giving yourself an opportunity to try a bunch of different things would be a fun project for this class and moving forward. Like how many different stops could you get off at? Could you join a rowing class and a daycare center and a bird watching club and a community catalyst community organizer and a performance street artist and a like literally like just get crazy with things you could try, and then you're like, you know what, I really like interpretive dance on the street. That was really interesting. I also liked wearing a mask so no one knew who I was. I don't know what that tells me about me, but it tells me something, and it was fun. Or you know what I mean? So then it becomes like, how can I set up these experiments that tell me a little bit more about it? The other thing, I keep on hearing one of my yoga teacher friends says he's like, I teach in the middle point between the breakdown and the breakthrough. That if you're not breaking down, you're not able to break through. But we don't want to break down too much. We want to also like allow to break through. And I don't know if that's relevant, but I kept on. I appreciate that you appreciate how appreciable your situation is. Because it is a crazy and amazing privilege. And I think, I don't know. I don't want to say anything else. We'll see what else comes up.
Leslie, I loved what you shared as well. I love, number one, that you mentioned the word privilege. I talked about that as well. And that implies a certain amount of humility and gratitude on your part, and cultural sensitivity. And the other thing, that lyric as you described it by Jack Johnson's anything but frivolous. I mean, that picturing it, right? It meant something to you. That's the whole point, right? So I just wanted to say that. And one more, now I can't stop, Imogen Heap, who's a British artist that some of you know, Let Go is a song she recorded with another guy who formed a band called Frou Frou. And in one of my favorite line in that, I actually at one point called my band this, is beauty in the breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
There's beauty in the breakdown, right? And that is just like, so I think what you said, Sean, is spot on from a brain-based or therapeutic, whatever way of looking at the world, that between what your yoga teacher said, but between break down and break through. And I mean, breaking down and not knowing stuff, and that's what this is all about, right? Is just, it's brutal, it's incredibly scary and painful, but it is so fruitful. And the opposite of that is making sure we don't do that. And that is, I know we've all done that at times and are still trying not to do that. And it's, you know, that's a very straight line going nowhere.
I'm not sure if you mentioned Tara Brock's Rain. Did I just hear that
From me or someone else?
from you, Paul?
No, that's interesting.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, you
Okay,
did
well.
hear that. Yeah, that is crazy, but it's all good.
Anyway, great therapeutic, great. She has it's a great framing for kind of modern Buddhist translation. It's just great. Recognizing, accepting, inquiring, investigating, nurturing. It's right along there with acceptance and commitment. But it's kind of it's framed to be more of like something that you're able as a process that you can go through when things are yes. And the other thing that I just feel like I have to say is this notion of uncertainty and leaning into it. I had this first unit, since we're nearing the close, is around unlearning and the things that we have to unlearn. One of them being that there's a teacher giving us information that we're then like in a process, which is true, but really there's like this leaning into uncertainty, which doesn't seem like progress, but is like really important for the rest of where we're going in terms of this curriculum. And so kind of getting okay with not knowing and like using that as a good thing, or at least unlearning the idea that we need to know where we're going, I think is really powerful for the first step of this 7-week process. And it goes along with like our daily free writing prompt and free writing pages is one real way to lean into that, because we don't know what's going to happen when we show up to the page. We just do it anyway. And we're like, oh, that was interesting. It's like in a micro thing. So anyway, I did want to make that point in terms of how this course is structured. It's good stuff. Good people.
Good. I was like, I want to hear from Kai.
I know, Kai.
Yeah,
You gotta-
sorry. I wanted to say thanks for allowing me to listen, and I hope you didn't find my silence hostile in any way. It can, that it sometimes silence can be like that, but
Wow.
I just found myself listening to everybody and then only maybe realizing where I was at. I did the free writing exercise, but to me, free writing is a lot less goal directed than I think some of the ways in which, it was approached in the group. So I was a little bit like, I was contemplating, like I was listening to all my different egos having conversations with themselves and trying to just observe that. But I'm also just in a state at the moment where I'm horrified, and it's got everything to do with wanting to know what's going on in the world and having a profound feeling that I don't know what's really going on, and being amazed in a sense at everybody just wanting to carry on with their life, just as I would love to, and at the same time feeling that that's just not relevant right now for me. So it's a bit of a tortured artist response, I suppose, wanting to understand, wanting to know, and situate myself so that I can validate myself, so that I can matter, or, have something of value to make of the situation, or to matter for myself within this situation, which is profoundly invalidating. And there are a lot of things in the world at the moment, that I'm seeing happening like that. I ended up, so scary thoughts, I ended up with this metaphor of, the Dropbox company, with they have the logo, the Dropbox software. Well, basically it stores your shit in the cloud, literally. And I was wondering, okay, Dropbox stores your shit in the cloud, and then you make playlists out of your shit and you put it in all these different little folders and stuff, but it's still shit. And then you're God. So I had this comparison, like from the sort of micro perspective of being God, rearranging your shit and thinking that it matters. Yeah, so disturbing thoughts. That's kind of where I ended that one. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't. And that's where I'm at. I would love to be able to validate myself, to be able to be relevant, to be able to say that what I'm doing matters. But all I find myself able to do is to listen at this point in time, and also just really try to listen to myself, because we produce, and that's where I was really resonating also with being in a major life change, which I think everybody is, on this call. And for me, I spilled some milk on my computer a few months ago, and I've had to use my phone for everything because I couldn't afford a new Apple Mac. I had to save up, and I'm finding myself very resistant to getting a computer now. And you guys all, you were typing so fast and having all these wonderful thoughts. And I just wanted to write in my book at this point in time, because I have a profound doubt about production at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. I produced a lot. I worked in academia as well. I produced an enormous amount. I have journals coming out of my ears, actually, with stuff in them that very often I don't take action on, or I don't revise often enough or reread enough. I can just produce and produce and produce, and feel that that's validating in some way. But is it valuable? I don't know. I have a profound doubt about that, which is why I'm trying to listen to myself and everybody else as much as possible. And yeah, that's where I'm at. Maybe
that was
doubt
honest.
also needs to be appreciated, to sort of weave it into your narrative there.
I don't know about you and Jeannie and Leslie and Sean, but we heard so many themes that went through the last class. It was like mind-blowing. Like a big thing we talked about was self-validation and not looking to others for answers. And a big one was production versus presence. Like, why are we so focused on a product and not just being present and changing our worlds from our present moments instead of, I don't know. That's just so many themes came through that I remember us talking about in a previous class. And I think that's so cool.
You've got like the nice existential dread card played in the middle, like which is a really nice addition. Sorry, Jeannie.
No, it was me, of just to be like a constant reminder to ask ourselves what is valuable.
Yes.
What am I like?
Exactly what I had in the chat.
Yeah, like all the time. What is valuable? What do I care about? Right? The whole idea of what is a good life? What is valuable to me and to others? And half the time, I think we're just we talked about it a ton. Just like producing for
Yeah.
production's sake.
Yeah.
And I can't get on this rant because I've been really pissy about capitalism, but
Yeah.
anyway, I'm glad you're here too, Kai.
And in the
So
other,
I can't even type answers to you guys on the text chat, and I will probably have to get on this laptop that I've borrowed from my friend that I'm always very reluctant to open because it forces me to, you know, be endlessly productive and get sucked into the internet. But yeah, I will probably have to do that sooner or later anyway. I've been taking a bit of a break from real life. Yeah, one of the things that comes to me just with what we're talking about is a question I recently came across in a book on midlife crisis. And I tried to sum it. I tried to sum up the book. In a sense, this question really haunted me. And the question is, how will you live now that you know you're going to die? Which is very Buddhist and existential and like. But before you're 40, you don't really realize that you're going to die. Or there's a whole lot of other stuff, you know, that you need to get done before you're going to die. And you know it's going to catch up with you sooner or later. And it becomes a more nagging question. And then the value of your contribution it does sort of come to the forefront, I think, as a nagging question.
what's the book, Kai?
It's Barbara Sher.
Oh,
It's only too late if you don't start now.
so get that in the chat for me. Barbara Haggerty has another great book on the science of midlife called Life Reimagined. It's really good.
I love Barbara
for
Sher because she
Kansas.
has a sense of humor. The whole book is quite funny to read. And she, you know, she's written books like what's it called? I think You Don't Have to Choose. And she writes about creativity mostly. I don't know if all her ideas are very useful, but this is quite a mature book. I think she wrote in her 80s, reflecting on her own midlife crisis.
So before I wrap, I have that manic vibe that there's a lot I want to get to in the last little bit here. Other things that people have, yeah. Thanks, Kai. Anyone want to say anything? Either to what Kai, because I know, respond to Kai before I do, or before we use Kai's share to kind of wrap and look at where we're going.
I just want to thank you. I feel challenged by the things you brought up. And there's a part of me that if we knew each other better, and I'll do it anyway, would say, oh yeah, thanks a lot, Kai. You know, right?
Did I just dump it on you?
Yeah. Wait, are you saying everything I've been storing in the cloud is shit?
Even my own songs. Yes, I love it. So, but seriously, and how genuine you are about looking at the world the way it is right now, and the way I think we probably, well, I imagine we'll be talking about this, but that we're all suffering for not just ourselves, but for other people. And it's just a lot to hold in one brain. And then the other thing that I thought about was, okay, so historically I have worn the therapy, that being a therapist badge as like some status thing, like I'm doing something meaningful. But a lot of the time it's like, what the hell was that 45 minutes? And did I do anything at all for this person? And I've got all kinds of ways I can write it up where it seems like it, but how the hell do I ever know that I've brought any value at all to anybody? You know, and you start going down that road, it's just like, so yeah, so I can just relate to a lot of the things you brought up, and I appreciate you being with us.
What a supportive group.
Yeah, thank you.
I say this every time, but I'm freaking excited to be in this class again. It's going to be awesome.
And it's a good, so the majority of the work, quote unquote, I almost want to call it play because that's more in line with where I'm at, is an exploration. And so I just want to explain a little bit that we want to do many experiments if we can. And we're trying to, all the writing invitations are 7 each week. And there's different ways to approach them. I would, if it was me, just kind of skim them and see which ones jump out at us. And Kai, I really also like that you said that the prompt was more goal oriented than the free writing you're familiar with. Because technically free writing is you just show up to the page and see whatever comes out, right?
Yeah. And you gave us 5 prompts. You put 5 questions into our head, like right at the beginning. So I was just trying to go step by step.
Yes.
And I didn't get to the good life. I was like, the good life? What the hell is that? You know, like, okay, leave that one for last. That's the most complicated one of them all.
So this whole course is an attempt to answer that question. And each week is one of the key ideas that I've gotten from my investigations of it. Week 1, what we're doing right now is practicing presence and unlearning, particularly unlearning the things that get in the way of us being present. Like we need to get somewhere. So if I'm trying to get to this pen and I'm focused on the pen so much so that I am just, it takes away from my presence. So this first week is on presence and using writing as a tool to establish presence. There's material about Zen Buddhism and like being present without language, which is the other flip side of this. So writing is generally pretty language oriented. There's a real value in being present without language, which is Zen Buddhism. And that's also why I love, and if you don't have the books yet, they're available, the Amazon free preview. You can see them. Natalie Goldberg's Writing Down the Bones is like part free writing, part Zen Buddhism. And she navigates that. It's just wonderful. She's incredibly supportive. I love this book. So you can check out the first part of that. So each week we're going to explore a different theme or a different aspect or a different P word related to the good life. This week is presence. And we're exploring ways to be more present. I want to just submit that our judgments about things, whether or not it's shit or not, and wondering whether it's shit or not, Kai, I'm also going to pick on I have 174 of these little red notebooks. I counted the words. I'm at like 1.6 million words over 6 years. That's a lot of shit to wade through, especially if I'm pressuring myself to publish a book that's going to help get this message to more people or whatever. You also were like, man, that should be revised, or I should be doing more with it. Anyway, we're trying to be more present without like judging one way or the other as an experiment. That's our goal this week. Unlearning and presence. Next week, we're going to do purpose, clarifying purpose. After that, we're going to look at paths and path findings. Then we're going to look at potential plans and prototypes, week 4. Then we're going to look at people on week 5. We're going to look at different kinds of partnership in week 6, and we're going to end with perspective and patience. So for me, the good life is presence, purpose, prototypes, potential, path, people, partnerships, perspective, patience, whatever. You don't need to know all that. It's all in there. Point being for this week, in terms of how we are working on presence. And so I'm going to send that module 1 has 7 different writing prompts. They're writing invitations. So you can take those, you might look at them, any one of them you could write on over and over again, or not. Or you don't need to use them at all. They're just there to help you. If you have a free writing practice, okay, here's the goal. You're going to try to get the end of this week. I would like, or as soon as possible, honestly, you want to the goal for this week is to get a creative contract with yourself. I say creative because it should just be your contract with yourself. This does not mean you don't need to be creative. You're just creating a contract for yourself with daily and weekly commitments. So what am I going to try to do this week, and what am I going to try to do each day? The way it's phrased in the material, and this is from Julia Cameron's Artist Way, if nothing else, we're just going to try to commit to greater self-care for the next 7 days, in the next 7 weeks. This course usually brings up challenges, maybe existential questions about the value of existence. We just want to care for ourselves as much as we can. So that means eating well, resting well, those kinds of things. I don't, what do I want to say? This isn't like a requirement. None of the work is required, but this first one is incredibly powerful. If you could choose to do something every day, or at least 6 out of 7 days a week, and do something every week to take care of yourself, what would that be? For me, generally, it's writing in my pages a little bit each day and taking at least an hour a week to just do something that is really good for myself. So lately, and this time, I'm going to experiment with energy and rest, because that's been coming up huge for me. The contract can be amended later, but I do want us to play with making a commitment to ourselves in some kind of a way, whatever that's going to be. And then beyond that, this is an awesome group. So if you want to reach out, there's some other things we didn't quite get to today, but that's fine. We have a wonderful community, and the Latin word is communitas. So that's going to be in the notes. It's a little bit different than community. It's kind of this transient experience of counterculture that's happening right now, for Victor Turner's words. It's great. It's exactly what I wanted to build. So I'm really happy with this. I'm going to send or you can see that in the document or in the email I sent this morning, it has like an overview of the module and then the writing stuff, just however much of that you'd like to use. And I think that's all I want to say. Yeah. Any questions?
I was just going to say, Sean, I think the thing that stood out to me the most on this kind of not closing, but wrapping up this first section was the self-care part. I think that the last time I did this class, I didn't realize how big of a thing I was committing myself to, and how much it kind of took out of me in a good way. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually like creatively like tired because I'm actually exercising muscles I haven't used in a really long time, just with my head and thoughts and everything. So the self-care part stands out to me a lot, and I feel like focusing on that this time around would be really good.
Pack a sandwich when you break down. So just like, and I do think it really is. It really is. And you need energy to do the things. I guess the last thing that I'll say is that this course perpetually amazes me because people and I've gotten different things out of it at different times. And it's okay to not know what you're going to get out of it. We actually have kind of 3 or 4 weeks to kind of begin poking around with what that might be. Actually, like 3 kind of. So it's okay to kind of still be exploring. But the other question I didn't get to is, what do you want to get out of this course? Which you'll see some writing prompts on that. Like, what's your goals? We kind of got there, but we're going to play with that. And then Samantha, hi Samantha, if you're watching this at this point, we'll see you next week. And hi Kyle. Let me know if I can help. And I think that's a wrap.
Thank you, everybody.
I feel invigorated and challenged. So, and thank you, Tasha, for your honesty and opening up the emotional aspect of this course early on. That's fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for your support and for integrating and making this a great community already. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing
thank
where this
you.
goes.
I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really looking forward to, yeah, getting to know all of us.
Me too.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye. See you next
Bye.
time.